sort of a pink color, purple. Did you find it? If you don't have it installed for some reason, you can always go to the Creative Cloud app, open it up. You good? Almost? Okay. Oh, that's fine. We're just going to go over this, get started on this, and I was going to bounce class to work, so I'm in no rush. So. All right. Okay. So anyway, Adobe InDesign. So like I said before, I mean, page layout, anything greater than 2 pages for sure. But you can use it for, postcards, anything, requires page layout. Adobe InDesign is much better, although Illustrator has good type tools and whatnot, InDesign is much more focused towards typography and creating large documents with lots of different formats and stuff. So a couple just to, I've got there we go. So here's an example of an InDesign document. This is all set up to single pages instead of spreads, but it's much, like I said, much better suited to working with type and whatnot. If I pull out, let's close that pre-flight window. If we take a look, there's, it's got the standard type tools, but there's a text wrap panel set up here, as well as panels for style sheets and all of that kind of thing. So I'm just going to kind of start it from the beginning and kind of walk my way through it. So if I create a new document, and under new, there's options for document, book, and library. We're just going to do document. Keep it simple. And in contrast to Illustrator, in Illustrator, I've said that the tabs that we choose up here make a difference as far as our color space. It's not so much true with InDesign and most of the other apps. So really, print, web, and mobile just separate different template layouts or starting points. And I'm just going to start with the print one. So there's also a lot of other options here you can see for the document setup. So if I just sort of start, I'll take a look here at the right-hand side. I went ahead and selected letter, but over here, I can set my width and my height. I'll change my units. So I'm gonna switch this to inches. And let's do a 8.5 by 11 document. So looking down through here, some important things to pay attention to. One is number of pages. I can toss as many individual pages in here. Illustrator is based upon a single artboard, although we can add other artboards. InDesign from the get-go allows you to specify the number of pages within your document. So I could select 4 pages, say, and then this checkbox out here next to it's kind of important. So I've got the option of facing pages, and if I uncheck it, it gives me single pages. Facing pages set up my document in what's referred to as reader spreads, which means basically if you pick up a book or a magazine and you open it up and you've got 2 pages side by side, those are reader spreads. So if I do, facing pages, that's what I'm going to get, is I'm going to look at a spread of pages. It's an 8.5 by 11 page, but a spread would be 2 8.5 by 11s side by side, which would be 17 by 11. So you should usually pay attention to this whenever we set up a document. If we're just doing a cell sheet, we're going to uncheck that, and we're probably only going to select 2 pages to create a cell sheet. That'd just be a front and a back. I don't want to set those up side by side. They should be different pages. And I'm going to do this both ways here real fast just to see the difference. But I uncheck facing pages and I change my number of pages to 2. I'm going to leave everything else alone for now. Say create, and you'll see that basically it stacks my pages one on top of the other. And if I look at my, go over here to I'm using a typography layout. Maybe I'll go to Essentials Classic. We'll do Essentials Classic, that's fine. Essentials Classic layout, redock all this stuff. Or even better yet, let's go Window, Workspace, Reset. My Essentials, there we go, nice and neat. So it sets up my pages one on top of the other. And I can add more pages if I want to on the fly. None of that's a concern. But if I take a look here over on my flyout menus, I've got this pages panel. If I open it up, it'll show the pages that I've got set up in the order that they're set up in. So I can modify this panel, which I'll show you in a moment, but page 1 and page 2. I've also got a layers panel. Layers and pages are separate. So layers work just the same way that they do in Illustrator or anything else. But so usually the way I'll allocate layers is for things like I might have background graphics that are standard throughout my layout. I might place on a different layer, put my type on a layer, put my images on a layer to keep things straight and organized. Why would that matter? Especially keeping type on separate layers. If you need to do a document in multiple languages, that comes up. You've got used to do a lot of work for a company that did business in the US and Canada. So everything was English and then French translations. So we would keep the different translations on different pages to make it, or different layers, to make it easy to keep one document. And then when we needed to export the version to print for French, we turned on the French layer, turned that one off, turned on the English layer to export the version for English. So one of the uses for layers. And we'll find some other uses for them too as we go through here. The pages panel, let's see. Pages, layers, links show us all of the linked files in our document, which is a little more convenient. Illustrator has that, but this is a little more convenient. stroke, color, swatches, a lot of things that we're used to by and large. So, but look at the pages panel, one on top of the other. So I'm just going to create another new document, Command N on my keyboard. Change this to inches, it's 8.5 by 11, but I'm going to make this one 4 pages, and I'm going to turn on facing pages this time. So now when I create this document, take a look at my pages panel, looks a little bit different. And when I scroll through here, I'll just zoom out on it. Here's my cover. This is my inside spread, pages 2 and 3 that go side by side, and then my back cover. So this is what, when we set up facing pages, this is what it does. Puts it together in a spread. So most brochures that we do will be set up in spreads like this. We'll export, whenever we export things to proof to look at as PDF files, we'll export them as spreads. When you export for print, however, usually they want the individual pages. So we'll actually convert this document to be single pages once we're done. But that's the difference between the two page layouts. So just taking a quick look here at this pages panel, just like the rest of the apps, we've got this little hamburger menu up in the corner. If the thumbnails that I'm looking at are here are too small for me, I can go up to this little menu in the corner, this little hamburger, click on that. And although I can insert, move, duplicate spreads here, I can also, where is it? There's a, where did it go? Spread, oh, panel options, all the way at the bottom. If I open that up, right now my thumbnails are medium sized. I can switch those to large, extra large, and jumbo. So if I go to extra large and say OK, I get a nice bigger thumbnail view. And the pages themselves will show the content that's on them, on the pages panel. So it'll show little thumbnails to make it easy to kind of sort through stuff. But that's our general setup there. Anytime we're setting up a document with InDesign, especially if it's a folded document or a stitched document like this would be, we're always working in sets of 4 pages, so which are referred to as signatures. So if I'm creating a booklet, 4 pages is an 11 by 17 folded in half. If I want to have 2 11 by 17s folded in half, then I actually need to have 8 pages. And we need to count in 4s that way for a standard book format. So they're either 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and so on and so forth. So the setup is just a hair bit different than Illustrator is. So that's the difference between those 2 page setups. So I'm going to close both of these and create another document and continue down this list. So I've got 4 pages, facing pages, we'll leave it all that way. So next down is columns. And this is part of our page layout, page setup. Usually before we design a page, we'll have some idea of how all of the pages are going to arrange, how we're going to arrange our text, how we're going to structure it. Having some sort of a column structure in mind is never a bad idea, even if you're just doing a simple flyer brochure, because you can use that column structure as part of a grid to help you design and lay out a page. So grids are one of those things that really kind of get hammered on a lot. But they just help you, lay out a page nice. Even if you've got no real design ability whatsoever, you set up a nice grid, and you align your objects to that grid and you make it make sense, it goes an awful long way. So a grid is really kind of essential for a clean, organized layout if nothing else. And it does make a difference in the way your page looks. I mean, when you don't have any kind of a grid structure that you're following at all, things just kind of start to appear placed haphazardly. And that ends up being what you actually do. But when you've got those grids, when you've got a grid structure, it helps you organize things. So I usually use columns to do that. I can change this later. I can even change it on a page-by-page basis. But I'm going to make this a 4-column layout just by way of demonstration. So I'll make this 4 columns, and I'm changing to inches. And I'm going to make so the column gutter is actually the space between each column. By default, it's 0.167, which is a little bit over 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to increase that to 1/4 of an inch on mine, just because I like that better. And now that I've set those, if I say create, you'll see that if I go down here to page 2 and 3, so this is what I've set up. I specified 4 columns, 2, 3, 4 per page, with a gutter width of 1/4 of an inch. And that's what I'm seeing. So these don't print, they're just guidelines for me to work with within my document. Each page has 4 columns, so I can kind of start that way. So I'll create a new document. I'm just going to kind of create new documents left and right here. So let's go back to inches, 4 pages, start on 1, 4 columns. So it's remembering the last set of measurements I put in. Let's move down to margins. Margins are that space between the edge of the page, the printed page, and the area that my type should be contained within. So by default, 1/2 an inch is what it uses. And that's a good measurement. I tend to use 1/8 of an inch, or an extra 1/8 of an inch, so I'll usually go 0.625. But I've got the option here to set different margins all around my document. So my top and bottom, for instance, I can make 3/8 of an inch. My inside and my outside, I'm just going to leave that way. But if I've got this spread in the middle, maybe I don't want so big a gap in the middle of it, I can adjust this inside margin if I want to. So I'm just going to set my margins to 0.625. And then the last one is bleed, which we talked about on Tuesday with Illustrator. A standard bleed, if we're going to have color or images going to the edge of our page, we're always going to have bleed added to it. That's the area that I pull those areas of color or image out to in order to prevent unwanted artifacts if the document shifts on press. So I got 3/8 of an inch for my margins, 1/8 of an inch for my bleed. Slug we're going to ignore for now. And then when I say create, you take a look at your document. We've got our grid set up, as well as it's got our bleed marked on it and everything else. So usually the settings we choose here are based upon design layouts that we've already designed on paper, probably. And then we're now translating into InDesign. So we've got a page set up. I just picked 4 columns by way of example. I mean, we can do this any number of ways, but that's kind of what I've set up. So that's a page. Actually, that's 4 pages. And if I want to make any changes to those after the fact, I can do that. So if I've got a page selected over here on my Pages panel, for instance, let's select page 2. If I come up to my Layout menu and look at pages, margins and columns, I could make the decision that I could either change my margins to be something different on just this page if I want to, or I could change the number of columns and the gutter on that. So maybe I decide that on the left-hand page of every spread is going to be an image. I could remove my columns if I wanted to. But even within that, within the concept of keeping a grid layout, having my columns in place is still not a bad idea, because if I still align captions or text into my photo, then at least it's following that column structure and it keeps that organized feel to the entire layout. So we can make those changes here if we want to. I'm going to leave them alone. Usually the only ones I change are sometimes my inside margins. I'll narrow up a little bit, but I'm just going to leave that alone for now. So there is that. So our page is set, yeah. Say it again? The bleed. So the bleed I put in whenever I set up the document is right down here below the margins that I set up. And I'll just set those there. And yes, I can change the bleed if I want to here as well. So even though I set up sort of global parameters, I can change them on a page by page or spread by spread basis depending on my layout. So there's a page set. This, on my page panel, this area up here at the top houses my parent pages. So because InDesign is geared towards creating multi-page documents, a lot of times we'll have templates that we use for different spreads, for different purposes. And creating parent pages is the way we do that. So by default, it has a one that has no formatting on it whatsoever. Well, it's got formatting, but its label is none. But then it gives me a parent, which is the default. Every page in the new document is based upon that one parent. I can add new parent pages if I need to. So if I appear on my parent pages, if I go to this little hamburger menu again, I can create a new parent. It'll be prefixed with B. And I can change its name. I mean, I'm just going to leave them A parent and B parent for now. But create another one. It's 2 pages. It's the same basic setup that my original was. And say OK. And that gives me another set of parent pages that I can work with. So maybe parent A, maybe my document is going to have, maybe I'll have 12 pages and I'm going to have every spread is going to alternate, maybe large across the gutter photo on the left, and when I turn the page it's going to be large across the gutter photo on the right, and it's going to alternate back and forth like that. So I can set that kind of structure up here with these parent pages. So if I open up parent A, for instance, which is already applied to these pages down here, and I'm just going to grab I'm actually going to do a rectangle for now, and just kind of draw a rectangle around the first page, and then I'm going to come across to the edge of the gutter on the second page of the spread. Put that in there and go down here to my swatches panel, and I'm just going to give it a 50-ish% black. So I set up my parent page set A to be photo on the left, and my copy of my text will go to the right. So if I open my pages back up again, you'll see that because all of these original pages I set up are based on parent A, when I made that modification, it added that change. Now, I don't like how it did the front and back cover aren't going to follow that, but I'm going to mess with that here in a minute too. So there's parent A. Let's go ahead and do parent B real quick. I'm just going to actually select the only difference that I'm going to make, the only change I'm going to make is I'm going to copy this gray box off of parent A, and I could draw this in on parent B. I just go to parent B, paste that in, but I'm going to put it on the right-hand side this time. So my text will be to the left, my image will be to the right on parent B. This didn't change because this little A in the corner of the pages indicates that parent A is what's applied there. So let's come back down here to these pages, and I'm just going to select page 3, go down here to the bottom, the little plus sign, and click on that. I'm going to add 4 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that gives me a layout like this. If I want to change which parent applies to a spread, I simply go up here, grab my parent, B parent, and, I'm just going to grab the page and replace each one of these. B and there. So now my pages go through photo left, photo right, photo left, and then my front and back covers. Front and back covers, this none parent is really kind of well suited for that because my covers will usually be designed separately and differently. So if I just select this parent up here that says none and I drop it on top of A, and I drop it on top of page 1 and page 8, I've now applied that parent to each one of those pages. So I've got a basic page setup. 4-page document, 2 11 by 17s stitched in the middle. I'm ready to go. And now I can kind of design from this point forward. So that's the benefit of parent pages. Other things parent pages are great for, usually documents will have page numbering in the corners. We'll set up page numbering on parent pages. Frequently they'll have a footer, footer notes of some kind, document title or that kind of thing. So we can set those up in parent pages, and then they sequentially, no matter how I rearrange things, they'll always sequentially reorder and change based upon the order that they are in the page layout. So, so I've got this set up, and one of the things you'll notice is that if I go into page spread 2 and 3, pages 2 and 3, if I try to click on this box, I can't grab it and move it. As part of the parent page, it's kind of locked in there. That's kind of the point. But we can disconnect it from the parent page if we want to. And all we really need to do is hold down our Command and our Shift key and click on that object, and that'll detach it from the parent page. And the reason I did that is so that now I'm going to go to unsplash.com, find I probably have one from last class I could use. So I could download a photo, come back over here, and I can place, if I select that box, I'll just place the photo I just downloaded. There. and I'll add it into that image box. And then I just need to size that. So if I right click on the image, fit it, I'll do fitting, fit content proportionally. And then resize it. So there's my right-hand page. Yeah.
Can you place the image again?
Do what again?
Can you place the bird image in the box again?
Yeah, place it in?
Yeah.
Yep. So I've got the box selected. If I just go File, Place, which is also Command D on your keyboard. Command D makes it pretty quick. Place, go find your photo that you want to place. Select it and say open. It'll drop it in there at actual size. Then we need to size it to fit the frame. Easiest and fastest way to do that is once it's placed in there, if I hold down my control key and click on the photo, I can go down here to fitting, and I've got a bunch of different options. I'm going to fill the frame proportionally. We'll do that. Try that. Fill frame proportionally. We'll fit it. Basically, it'll take either the width or the height that's shortest and match that width to the image box. All right. And if I double click on that image, I could size that up a little bit if I want to. Again, hold down that shift key and the option key. Hold down your shift and your option key when you're scaling, it'll scale from the middle. Hold down just your shift key and it'll do it proportionally. So we got that. If I tap W on my keyboard, that gives me a preview of the page without all my guides and everything else.
No, you just put Command W or W?
Nope, just got to touch the W key. Although if you've got your cursor in a text box and you touch the W key, that'll just type a W. But yeah, so if nothing's selected, you tap the W key and that'll give you the preview. So we've done that. We can do the same thing, go down here to our next page. Let's go back and find another. Actually, I've got a bird photo from last time. I'll just Command D, we'll place an image. I think this was the photo I had last time. Open it. Then hold down my control key. Fitting, fill frame proportionally. So, oops. So whenever I place images, basically it places the image inside of an image box. So if I just click on the image and move it, I'm going to move the entire box. But I've got this little viewfinder thing in the middle. If I click on that instead and drag it, it'll reposition the photo inside of the box. So I'll just kind of do that. Tap W on my keyboard. So as I, thumb through my document, I'm starting to set up some nice pages. So let's, we can set photos. It's kind of weird. The one thing that's a little odd is that if I create just a general shape, I can place a photo inside of a rectangle, a circle, whatever I want to. There's also right above that though, there's an actual rectangle frame or ellipse frame or polygon frame, which is a picture box. So, I mean, there are two things that it all works the same way. It's just that there's one on top, you know, there's both options. So just kind of know that the one with the X in it's truly intended for images, but you can place images inside of a rectangle just as well and just as easy. So, so we got all that laid out. So if I tap W on my keyboard again, I'm not going to finish out this last page, but just because I want to go on and do some other stuff. But so I kind of jumped into photos kind of quickly, but let's go back to this whole grid concept that I started earlier. So I set up gutters to or columns to sort of set up a grid structure. What's nice is that I can decide to place text boxes in each individual column and get 3 columns of text, or I can also decide to use one of these columns for callouts, say, or captions, and I could put all of my text to span across 2 columns if I want to. I can utilize these columns in any way, shape, or form that I please. It's kind of up to me. But what about vertical, up and down the page? There are 2 different things we could do here. One is we could utilize a layer, create a guides layer. So I'll just do that. I'm going to create a new layer, call it guides, and I could just pull out, much like I do with Illustrator, I could just pull out a whole series of guides. Go to my view menu to, no, not extras, grids and guides. Okay, so they're unlocked now. So if I select, let's do one more, down here at the very bottom. If I select all of these guides, I can use an alignment panel, which I don't. If I go to my window menu, which one, not styles, it's objects and layout. Grab my align tools. Same set of tools I have in Illustrator for alignments. So I can distribute all of those. And I just put in a few horizontal guides here. I can put in as many as I want. But when I'm done, I'll just go and to view, grids and guides, and I'll lock my guides so that they don't move around. So now I've got some horizontal guides I can go by as well. Because I could decide that I want to place a text box here that runs across these 2 columns. When I draw that out, a little cursor is placed in it. I can place Greek text in this, just placeholder stuff, by going up to my type menu, down to fill with placeholder text, and it'll fill that. And then, again, part of the reason for my guide here is, or my guides as well as the grid. Now let's say I want to put a little caption over here about this bird. And maybe I do this time. It's a long narrow column. Type. Fill with placeholder text. But you see, even though they're separated apart, if I tap that, deselect everything, tap that W on my keyboard, everything's nice, organized, and aligned up. So I need organized layout. Once we get through once we finish our image translation assignment, we're moving on to drawing iPhone icons in an iPhone. When we finish that assignment, our first InDesign assignment is actually creating a cell sheet for the iPhone. So, and the one thing I see every time I do that exercise is type that, runs all the way over to the edge of the page and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of why I'm going over grids early, and you'll get sick of hearing me talk about them. So, but they help us keep stuff neatly organized and aligned. It looks better. It's cleaner, a more structured layout. So, but we can use that grid any way we want to. So, anyway, once I've got that guide layer done, though, back to that, I should have locked that guide layer. So, but that's kind of setting up a general page layout. And I haven't gotten into most of the other really fun stuff, but that's kind of a starter. I would, if you were kind of working along with me, save the document. So, because I'll probably come back to it and sort of build on it. Whenever I've built this out some, I'll go ahead and save it. Save as, go to which one's that? I'll actually save this to my work file. New folder, demo, InDesign document, and demo 1. There we go. So without getting real deep into type and everything else, that's kind of setting up a basic document. A couple other things that are good to know. The control menu along the top of the interface is really pretty dynamic. It changes based upon anything that you're doing. So and actually Essentials Classic has it. I think if I go to typography, I think it has one. Again, workspaces are just reorganizations of the tools based upon what you're currently doing. But do that, and then our toolbars along the side, everything's positioned the same as it is in all the other apps for the most part. So, and we'll kind of go through most of these. A lot of them are kind of self-explanatory, but we also have, and these are available in Illustrator as well, I just didn't really talk about them there. Within this Essentials layout, this Libraries panel is kind of useful. Libraries allow you to organize stuff for particular purposes. In my case, mine are all organized by client. So if I pick my Matco client, I've got all the colors they use on their toolboxes as well. Anything I'm going to need commonly. Colors being a primary one. Akron Children's, This is their color library. So if I'm working on an Akron Children's document, I've got libraries with all those colors already that I saved and that I use across my different documents. The libraries also, though, get saved to your Creative Cloud account. So when you open Illustrator, those same libraries are available in Illustrator, as well as After Effects, as well as Photoshop, any other app. So libraries persist across all the apps. And, if I decide that half of my, let's see, if I decide that my cover's going to be Akron Children's Green, I can just select that color and fill it. But it'll also add it to my swatches panel. So there's the build on it. That's the way the file is named. So. Yeah, so that's kind of setting up a multi-page document in kind of a hurry. If I go to my links panel, we'll see each of the links in my document. And if I click on a link, I can see all the details about it. It's an RGB image, so I know I need to convert that because books are a 4-color item. Its status is okay because the link's found. Remember that it doesn't actually embed the image. It actually links to the external resource, which keeps your overall file size down. But this is why it's useful to make sure that everything is all collected together in one place. Like I have you do with Illustrator. Create a folder when you start an InDesign document, create an assets folder, put all of your photos, logos, everything else in the assets folder so that you know where you're going to gain access to all this stuff. Any questions about any of that? We've worked with a bunch of other apps, so a lot of these, a lot of the stuff is the same, but there's enough stuff that's different that, we'll kind of go through all of it. So that's setting up a very basic short document using parent pages. I do have, as we work our way through this, we're gonna have a document that we create. I've got asset images, type, copy, the whole 9 yards. Usually when you're doing a large document like this, fortunately, don't have to type the copy ourselves. We usually receive a Word document for that. So, I placed some images here, showed you how to get going with that. Next week, we'll actually look at placing copy because it's the whole thing by itself, working with, importing text, working with it, flowing it from one page to another. So, but that's basic page setup and then utilization of those parent pages. So if I ever refer to parent pages as master pages, it's because they used to be called master pages and Adobe changed them about 2 years ago. And I still slip up and call them that. They were called that for 20 years, so. But just know the two terms are interchangeable, all right? Very simple intro to InDesign. Anything else fun here? It's worth mentioning now as opposed to later. No, we got our link info, layers, pages. Okay. So that's why don't we look at one other thing with parent pages? I'll actually step through doing So if I open my parent pages, let's add page numbering to our document. And I'm pretty sure this won't be the last time we go through this, but let's add some page numbers. So page numbers we need to add to our parent pages. And proper setup of an InDesign document is to use the page numbering system through the parent pages. Especially because later on, if we decide to use the table of contents, we're going to rely on those page numbers. And if we decide we need to move pages around, which we can do, it'll renumber the pages for us. We don't have to go back and manually do it. If we manually try to put in page numbers, then we've got to remember to move page numbers around when we move around pages. So what I'm going to do is just sort of zoom in here, because I'm just going to put the page numbers, actually we'll put them like midway up on the margin. So I'm going to create a text box, and I'm just going to kind of draw it here on the side. So it's going to be in our margin area. We're going to keep the number as far away from the edge of the page as we can, but this is going to be a page number block. I'm going to put color in it and reverse the text out of it. So I drew just a little text box here, and while that cursor is still blinking inside of it, I'm going to go up to my type menu, down to insert special character, markers, current page number. And you'll see that it drops a letter A into that box. That's because I'm on parent page A, so it refers to the number by that as well. If I'm on, I can do the same thing on parent page B, which I'm just going to do a copy paste job there. But so I've done that, and then I'm just going to I'll grab my selection tool, which is at the top of my menu, come back over here to my box. If I open my swatches panel, you'll notice at the top I've got, because it's a text area, there's a T, so I can change the color of my text. There's also just the box, and I want to change the color of the box first. So I want to select the box, and I'm just going to make it black. And then I'm going to select the T, and I'm going to make it white, the type white. So there's the first setup. And then, let's see, that's 12 points, so I'm going to select that and make it, instead of 12 points, let's make it 10, make it a little smaller. And then select my selection tool again. Select the box. If I control click on this text box, I've got an option here, frame options. Select that. It's also Command B on my keyboard. It's another key command that's worth getting used to, because you'll use this dialog a lot. So Command B, text frame options. And I'm just going to go over here to General, and I want to set the vertical justification. I want it to be in the middle, so I'm going to change it from top to center. And I want to turn on my preview box here, checkbox. So it drops it down to the middle. And it's right up against the edge of that shape, the box. So I want to change my inset spacing. I could do it all around, but I really just need the left-hand side. And we'll do it all around, just for good measure. Leave the link intact and just increase the margin a little bit. So, can do that. I did 1/8 of an inch. Could do a little less maybe. Do 1/8 of an inch. And say OK. And then we'll just kind of close that up just a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of position it. Ooh, actually, with that selected, I want to go to my align panel, align to the page, right? And I'm just going to center it. There we go. And I want to do the same thing over here on the other side, except this time I'm just going to copy this. Copy that, come over here, paste it, place it in the same spot. And then I need to change my text right now is aligned left, and I want to select that one, change it to align right. There we go. Let's come up here and do it. Where'd they all go? Window, type, and table character. And nope, I did not want character. I wanted type tables. I want a paragraph so that I can flush it right. Set that there. Set that there. Tap the W on my keyboard. Yeah.
Well, where do you get the lines from?
Get the lines.
Of the line? Now, mine stop at swatches, like inside, the side.
Oh, I'll take a look. Hang on a minute. Let me show you one thing, and then I'll come take a look and show you. See what you got. If I go back and look at my pages here, and I zoom in, this has the appropriate page number in the box. And, oh, all right. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So I got my page number on that box. I can do the same thing. If I go back up here to my parent pages real quick. I'm just going to copy these, go to parent B, and edit, paste, in place. So now when I zoom in on that, you'll see that, because I'm on parent page B, it's got a B in there. And if I come down here to my parent page, to these pages that have B applied, they're still all in place. You'll notice that it's not showing up where my image is. That's because by default, anything I place on a parent page is on the lowermost layer. And if I look at my layers panel, that's what I'm working on. Because I detached this image box from the parent page, it brought it all the way to the front, so it's overlapping it. So I need to make another adjustment to my layout structure. The way to fix that is actually, let's call this my content. The way to fix that actually is to create another layer, and I'm going to call this parent items, because we're generally going to want those to float to the top. Then if I come back here to my pages, go to my parent pages, grab my page numbers, I want to then open up my layers panel. Right now they're on this content layer. I'll cut them from there and I'll paste them to my parent items layer. So now when I come back to my pages, that's B. Now my page number's on top like it's supposed to be. So that's where another place utilizing layers is really helpful because of your parent page items. So do that real fast with my B set there and there. Copy them, or actually cut them, and paste in place. And now if I go back, now they're appropriately placed. So another strong use for parent pages, or for my parent pages, for page numbering. I should have really probably set up my guides on my parent pages so that I could have created a nice alignment there. You see how it's not really in alignment, looks a little sloppy. That's something I can go back and fix. It's not a big deal, but I can still change anything I want to on my parent pages. So we will do all this again because we'll create several different documents. So, if I can answer any questions, I'll come look at what you had. But we'll do this multiple times, just kind of introducing it. That's kind of a lot. So, parent pages, though, are the first thing we're really going to kind of focus on. We'll focus on that, and then we'll move on to type and whatnot. So, all right. So that's kind of an introduction to the whole thing. I did record this. I'll put it up on my YouTube too, so you can always go back and take a look at that if you need to. But the basics of laying out a page. I honestly jump right into the deep end with it. I mean, most of the stuff you do in here is going to be simpler than what I'm setting up here. So if we're able to do this, the simpler stuff that you do is going to be a cakewalk. So I don't, like I say, I kind of just go straight to the deep end. So, but that's InDesign. That's all I'm really going to go over, is just kind of getting a start with it. Those are the basics you need to know about parent pages. So next time we'll start a document and build it out from there. And I'll be pretty specific about what we do there. So, all right. An hour. Perfect.